Welcome back to Wrist Check Reviews, everybody. Today we're going to be taking a look at the classic Invicta bolt, a design they haven't had in quite some time. They brought it back, and we're going to see if it's better than ever. Welcome back, and if you're new here, this is Wrist Check Reviews, where we take a look at, talk about, and do full reviews on Invicta watches. So if that sounds like something you're interested in, hit that subscribe button. I'll be releasing videos every week with a new watch every single week, and you can follow me on Facebook and Instagram for the latest info on upcoming videos. So if you guys have been collecting Invictas for some time, you know about the bolts. These were an extremely popular style years and years ago. I want to say something like 10 or 12 years ago when they first came out with this. They've since come out with many iterations of the bolt, tri-cables, magnums, many different styles of women's bolts, but this particular style holds a special place in my heart because my very first Invicta was a bolt. So to me it's just a classic style that just screams Invicta. Very unique and is extremely comfortable along with very beautiful. So in this video we'll be going over some tech specs, dimensions, and the weight of the watch. And then we'll get a few others on the table for size comparison. And finally, we'll end with some things to consider if you're thinking about purchasing one of these watches. And I'll have links in the description below if you are interested to Amazon as well as Invicta stores where you can find the classic bolt style like you see here to purchase for yourself. So I went ahead and got both of these for me and my wife. Like I said, my first watch was a bolt, so she's seen me wear that watch for many years. And unfortunately, I was never able to find one that had that same look for women. It was kind of a style that was retired and seemed to be long gone. Thankfully, Invicta brought it back, and I couldn't be more excited. I love these. So we'll set the women's aside, and we'll bring it back up to the table a little bit later. Let's talk about what this watch is made of. So the entire case is stainless steel. The crystal on this guy is a mineral glass. The strap is that awesome new silicone that they've been putting on just about everything they have now. I think they've finally gotten away from the polyurethane straps, and in my opinion the silicone is a much more superior material. This watch is water resistant for 200 meters. It's got the chronograph. It is a push-pull style crown on the side with your two function pushers here, and the movement inside is from a company called Time Modules Incorporated, or TMI, and it is the VD53 Japanese quartz movement. So this one takes a battery. The case size on this watch is 50 millimeters. The thickness is 17 millimeters, and the strap width starting up here at the top is 32 millimeters. As a matter of fact, let's grab a micrometer and just measure that. So right at the lugs, right before it goes into the strap, we're about 34. 31.2 at the very top. It looks like it tapers down to about 23 millimeters. So it makes it extremely comfortable, adds that little bit of extra flair as you wear the watch, and you can notice that beautiful bolt cabling that they put into this strap. Beautiful touches from Invicta. These are actually stainless steel inserts that they have inside. And that bolt design in the strap comes from that cabling done around the bezel. It's a fixed bezel because you get those beautiful high polished cable keepers. I don't know if that's a technical term or not, but that's what we'll call them. As well as what makes this the bolt is that beautiful cable. It wraps all the way around that bezel. The dial on this particular one is a white mother of pearl with black mother of pearl subdials. And we'll pull the women's watch back up here, take a look at that one, because you're really not sacrificing on the little bit of a smaller size. So the men's over here is 50 millimeters, that classic bolt sizing, and for the women's, they took it down to a 40 millimeter, which for my wife, she prefers a little bit larger watch, and this is almost the sweet spot for her. She loves the size of this. And the great thing about these is it almost feels and looks a little bit larger than it is without wearing overly large. Let's get a thickness measurement, because I was not able to find that online. So 14.7, just shy of 15 millimeters. So 2 millimeters shorter than the men's bolt. And that's not to say that a man couldn't wear this one. If you're not into 50 millimeter plus size watches, this is fantastic. It is 40 millimeters and falls right in line with those pro divers you may have, and it's still just as beautiful. I do wish they would have done the high polish around those cable keepers, as well as right outside the crystal like they did on the men's watch here. I don't think it makes it any less nice, but side by side it does feel a little bit premium having that high polish on there. You can see here on the women's you also get that white mother of pearl with the black mother of pearl subdials. You still get the cabling around the outside on the bezel, You still have those stainless steel accents in the strap. Still the same silicone strap with the cable work in it, as well as the same high quality buckle. I love that you don't have to sacrifice on details with getting a little bit smaller watch. Absolutely everything is sized down just a little bit to fit this case, and it just works so well. And here you can notice on this strap, it actually says reserve there, but these are not reserve timepieces from Invicta. These are just the standard Invicta watches, which is perfectly fine. But man, I gotta say, these really feel reserve quality. I mean, when you put this on your wrist, there's nothing cheap feeling about it. It really doesn't feel like they skimped on anything. So let's grab the scale and get some weights on these two watches. Alright, we've got the scale out. We're gonna first put the men's 50 millimeter on there. 6.15 ounces. Not too shabby. Again, it is a little bit thinner with a silicone strap. Helps to keep that weight down and makes it comfortable to wear all day. We'll do the women's. 3.85 ounces. So if you like wearing a watch that just kind of melts on your wrist and you almost don't even know you're wearing it, this is one to consider. So one more thing before we get into size comparisons with some other Invicta watches, I wanted to show you guys my original bolt that I've had for about 11 or 12 years. This is the very first Invicta I ever owned, and I didn't buy one for many years after buying this one because I was so in love with it. This one is from their reserve line. It's on a full stainless bracelet. It actually does say that in the dial right there. So you have the reserve logo on the side of the crown, as well as in the scissor style clasp, it actually says Invicta Reserve. And being a reserve piece, you would almost think they would have high polished it. So the fact that this one is non-reserve with that high polishing is truly awesome for the price point. Pricing on these, I did get these for kind of a special sale. It was if you bought one, you got $20 off each additional one that you purchased. So the first one was $109, and then every watch after that was $89. So I was able to pick this one up and the women's for under $200 for both of them. Alright, so for a couple size comparisons, we have the 50 millimeter men's sizing bolt on the left hand side and a 40 millimeter standard Pro Diver on the right. I always use this watch in my reviews. I feel that it's that classic looking style, even if you don't have a lot of Invictas or you're not super into what Invicta does, everybody can agree that this is a nice looking watch for what it is. So 50 on the left hand side, 40 millimeters on the right, 17 millimeters on the left, thick, and 14 millimeters on the right hand side. Then we'll grab the women's bolt. So the women's bolt is a 40 millimeter, and this Pro Diver is also 40 millimeters. Just shy of 15 millimeters thick for the bolt on the left, and right at 14 millimeters thick on the right with the Pro Diver. Very, very similar in size. So if you have the standard 40 millimeter Pro Diver and you love this size, you may want to stick with something like this, the 40 millimeter bolt. And these are offered in 3 different colors, as well as a few different variations like different straps and different dials, and I will have links in the description below. So here we have the bolt on the left and a Pro Diver Scuba on the right hand side, a much larger Pro Diver. Highly collectible. Lots of you guys out there have many of these in your collection. I felt it was a good one for comparison's sake. Both are 50 millimeters, and then for the thickness comparison, we're looking at 17 with the bolt on the left, and the Pro Diver Scuba over here is surprisingly 17.6, so very close, near identical, but you can see that extra thickness on the Scuba over here carries through the lugs and has a little bit more extreme wrap here, these lugs the way they curve. The bolt is extremely comfortable. Not saying that the Scuba is not, but personal preference, and in my opinion, the bolt on the left is more comfortable. And for our final comparison, we'll throw the 50 millimeter bolt on the left up to the 52 millimeter VENOM on the right. Any of you that have VENOMs out there know what a monster this thing is, but I felt it was a great watch to throw in the comparison because a lot of people have VENOMs. It, kind of like the bolt, is a staple in their lineup. So 52 on the right, 50 millimeters on the left. Then for the thickness, 17 millimeters on the left and 21 on the right with the VENOM. And if you guys haven't checked out the video on the VENOM, be sure to go over and check that one out. I'll have it linked in the description, and I'll throw a card up here at the top of the screen. So let's get into a few things to consider if you're thinking of purchasing one of these classic Invicta bolt styles. As we do that, I'm going to put the men's on my wrist so you guys can see that. I think one of the only subjective cons for me is that this one is a mineral crystal. It's not a flame fusion, and it's not sapphire, so it is going to be a little bit softer material. There we go. So I have pretty large hands, probably a medium-sized wrist, and that's what it looks like on me. Super sleek, and you can see that because they keep the thickness on these bolts down, it just really wraps around your wrist and is super comfortable. It just looks and feels great. I'll throw the 40mm women's bolt on my wrist also, so you guys can see that one. And there's the 40mm on my wrist. So as you can see, it still looks great. This isn't just a women's size or just a women's watch. So what are some other things to consider with this particular watch, besides the mineral crystal? If you're somebody that only collects reserve Invictas, this one's not going to be for you. It has the reserve look and feel, definitely, that is there. But it doesn't say reserve on the dial, and that may be a con to some of you out there. And the only other thing I can think of is this particular one is not an automatic. However, to my knowledge, I don't know that they ever made the classic bolts in automatics. You can leave a comment down below if they ever did. I would love to hear and know if they ever did that. I might have to get my hands on one. But value for money, this watch is fantastic. This particular one, you're talking right at 100. What you're getting here is well above that price point. The compliments alone you're going to get on this watch, no one would suspect you paid anywhere around 100. So let me know in the comments if you've ever seen an automatic version classic bolt, as well as how many bolts you have in your collection, and what do you like about them. Remember everybody, buy what you like. I'll see you on the next one.